Hello and welcome to Gameplay by Ardubich. Today I'm playing Victoria 2, Heart of Darkness. It is published and developed by Paradox Interactive. This is an older game, came out in 2010 I believe. And the reason I'm going back and playing an older game is because if it wasn't for the summer Steam sale that just passed a few months ago, I would have never heard of the game, and I have a lot of friends who've never heard of the game as well. But after I've had a chance to get into it, try a few games, I have to say I am absolutely hooked, and I feel the need to get this game out there. This is a very, very in-depth political simulator game, as one friend would put it. I've played all the strategy games such as Civilization, Total War, you name it, I've played it. And I don't play those games to get in and aim straight for a victory condition or try to kill everyone. I play those games as if I'm actually running that country, and I'll be diplomatic, trade, have relations with other country. If I need to go to war, fine, but that won't be my sole purpose. And that's one thing that this game does very good. It has a very, very complex game mechanic to it that gives you a lot of control over your country, so that it makes this game way more than just a I'm gonna go kill everyone type thing. So I'm going to get in here real quick, and one thing I want to point out is the amount of countries that are in it. As I scroll down this list of countries, you'll see that there are 131 countries that you can start with. There are way more than that in the game, as each area has territories, such as Canada here in 1836, controlled by Britain. So if I were to play as United Kingdom, which I'm going to for this video, I can release the nation of Canada and create, I'll have to do a little bit of settling out here too, but essentially I can create Canada in the game and run that as a completely separate country as any of the other ones. So while there's 131 countries to start with, there's like 200 some countries throughout the game that you can be. So let's go ahead and start. The one downside to this game is it starts in 1836 and it goes till 1936. And January 1st of 1936, the game is over. There's no playing past that. There's no nothing. As soon as January 1st hits, the game is done. I really wish that you can keep playing further. It kind of sucks having a time limit on games because you'll spend so much time building up, developing and everything, and then it all just goes to waste. So that's the one thing I don't like about this game. Let's go ahead and get into how complex this game is. You're going to see a bunch of tabs here at the top. We'll go through them. First is production. The first tab of production is factories. Each of your territories here has, I'm going to show the empty ones as well. They'll have factories in them, or you can build factories. Each one has a different resource that it produces and different resources that are required as fuel. It also has an employee amount. I think each factory can equip 10,000 at level 1, and you can upgrade them. I think I've seen that you can upgrade it up to level 30, which is crazy. Anyway, each territory also has an amount of craftsmen, and if you don't have enough factories to employ the craftsmen, you're going to have an unemployment rate, such as here in northwest England, there are 36,997 craftsmen that are unemployed. As you can see, there are some jobs available, but even at max employment for these factories, we're still going to have a lot of people unemployed. So one thing that I'd want to do is go ahead and try to open another couple factories here. That way we can maximize the workforce, make a little more money, and have more production. And you can see here in southeast England, you're looking at almost 100,000 craftsmen that are unemployed, which is a lot. For the purpose of this video, I'm actually going to be trying to create Canada and run the game as Canada. It's going to go ahead and it's going to take us some time though. So I'm not going to really focus on building up Great Britain, and to be honest, they start the game as the #1 power, so hey, they'll be alright. There are foreign investments. I haven't really done too much with this, so I'm just going to skip that for now. That, and I can't even get into it. Production, it'll show you what your country is producing of each good. and you can go into projects here, and this will be like railroads, factories, and stuff. There is a little bit more complexity that I'll get into in a little bit, and it has to do with the investors. But like I said, here in a little bit I'll cover that. The next is the budget. You do have to balance your budget. If you hit zero for your money and you're not in the positive, your country will start taking out loans from other countries in order to remain an operating country. Those loans taken will keep you afloat. However, if you can't repay those loans, those countries will earn the right to go to war with you, and they'll go to war to take over that, or take that money back. If they can't take the money, then they'll annex you and you'll become a puppet state. You can also give loans. Now, you don't actually have the choice to give loans. You just have to have the research and the policy that allows you to give loans, and other countries will just automatically take it when needed. The loans taken, though, however, you can take out, a certain amount of loan based on whatever you feel you need, or it'll do it automatically when you hit zero. You have tax levels here: the lower class, middle class, upper class, or rich, middle, poor. Each of them has different needs, so there's no needs being met. So these are the people that are going to be starving to death, living on the streets. There's life needs, which I think it's the green sliver. Yeah, life needs. This means that they're getting by, they have enough to survive, but they're not really thriving. You'll have some people making partial everyday needs, and then people who are meeting everyday needs. Those are going to be the people who are pretty well off. And then there's a certain amount of people getting luxury needs, so stuff that they just really don't need, but hey, they have the money to do it. Now, I know I explained it as upper, middle, and low class. That's not dependent on their income. That's dependent on their jobs. You're going to notice that the rich, these are going to be your capitalists and your aristocrats. Middle, it's going to be artisans, bureaucrats, clergymen, clerks, officers. And then your poor are going to be your craftsmen, farmers, laborers, slaves, and soldiers. You do have the option of trying to influence a certain type of citizen. So say I want to influence more capitalists. What that will do is it'll take some of the people from the middle class who may be getting some luxury needs, and throughout the day or a couple weeks or months, it'll actually turn those people into capitalists. And what I was saying about the game being extensive is these capitalists and the aristocrats are very important in the development of your nation, because different political policies will either allow you to have state-owned businesses so that you can build factories, or if you live in a free economy, the capitalists are the ones that are going to be open your factories. So if we go back here to production, I click on factories, you'll see that I can't actually build a factory, because where it says build factories, no, the political, let me see if I can find it here. Here, the political policy is free trade, which means I can't get involved in economics. There's some that are intervention, some that are state capitalism, as you can see here. Interventionism, I can open factories, I believe, and I can also, if a factory closes down from not making enough money or not having the resources, I can go in as a state, intervene, and reopen those factories and give them subsidies. Or if it's state capitalism, then you're pretty much, as a state, completely funding that business. But as the Whig Party, I'm free trade, and that means my capitalists, these guys here, they have to invest. They have to invest in the projects, which will open them up, and then I can go in and assist in funding. But without those capitalists, nothing gets done. So back to the budget here. Also, part of my policy limits how much I can tax my citizens, and it has it set as at a max of 50%, which it is already at that max, so I can't raise my revenue at all. As you can see, I'm going to lose 375 pounds per day, which means I have to cut spending. So I know Britain is well known for its navy. There was something that we learned in one of my classes in college, that Britain's unwritten naval rule is they have to have as many ships as the second and third country combined, plus some, in order to maintain their naval dominance. Like, from what I understand, that was an unwritten rule. Britain being an island nation, they pride themselves on their navy. But we are going poor, so I'm going to go ahead and lower that a little bit. So what this is doing is making it so that my ships aren't going to be fully stocked. They're only going to be receiving about 50% of the supplies they need, which is going to hurt them. But as you can see, I just gained about 400 pounds per day that that 50% bought me. You can adjust education rate, which affects your research. We'll get into that in a second. Administration, which affects your taxing policy, or taxing efficiency, I'm sorry. Social spending, which if you have certain social reforms such as the school system or healthcare, pensions, that's how it gets funded. If you're offering subsidies to factories, it'll be taken out here. And then military spending. Now the military spending, administration, and education, this is the pay directly to clergymen, bureaucrats, soldiers, and officers. So if I were to boost this up a little bit, this is going to be paying my soldiers and my officers a little more, which actually will come back a little bit more in the taxes. Now, it's not really worth spending 100 pounds a day just to get maybe 10 pounds per day back in taxes, but it doesn't hurt you completely if you raise the spending on your military or education or administration. So that's the budget. Let's go to technology here. There are 5 different categories of technology, and each category has 5 different branches. So here in the Army, say I go with the Army Doctrine, which that's one of my favorite ones to do, because once you get down here to infiltration, it actually unlocks the ability to have tanks, which are obviously very strong units. Alternatively, if you research aeronautics, you can have planes. And if you notice at the bottom of that, it says you can't research that until 1914, which, they don't want you flying around in planes by, 1840. There is a little bit of a historical aspect to this game. You're going to notice different issues pop up. If you play as America, you go through, if you start at the 1836, you go through westward expansion, dealing with the Indians, like the Trail of Tears, Manifest Destiny, stuff like that. You also deal with the Mexico and Texan Civil War, and dealing with Mexico as far as getting California, Utah, Nevada, New Mexico, and I think there's one other, but I forget. And then when you get to the 1860s, about 1862, 1863 in this game, the Civil War will hit. And throughout that entire, from 1836 to 1860s, you're going to be dealing with slavery issues. Different states pushing for the outlaw of slavery, or factions that'll push for slavery in states. And it's all issues you have to deal with to keep your country intact. You can push back the Civil War a little bit if you play a little more towards the slavery, pro-slavery people, but it's actually pretty inevitable. It's going to hit no matter what you do. And then when the Civil War starts up, you can actually decide to play as the Confederate States of America and try to earn your independence, which is a cool aspect of this game. It has history, has those moments throughout the last 100 years of this game, but you don't have to abide by that. You can even take the other side and change history. I'm not going to go through every single thing you can research here, but if you go with industry, you can increase the efficiency of your factories. Culture does certain things like, which one is it? I think it's this one here. It increases your research efficiency, which make it so you can research stuff faster. If you go to commerce here and go with, which one was it? Yeah, okay, so you go with the market functionality branch. It'll actually give you more diplomatic influence for dealing with other countries. And then you got your Navy and Army here, which it'll make the units stronger or unlock different units. So, but like I said, I'm not going to go through every single one of that. There is different education policies in the game, and that affects your research speeds. So Britain starts off here with negative army research and negative culture research, but a boost with Navy and commerce. Britain during this time was a very big trader throughout the world. They colonized all over so that they can get the resources and make money off of it. They weren't the only ones. Pretty much every great power at the time was doing that, but as you can see, the game reflects that they're a naval power that was focused on commerce. You can change that. You can make it so that there's no bonuses or penalties. You can make it so that you're trying to be a military power or an industrial power. It just depends on which policies you choose. So the next tab here is politics. There's different social reforms, different political reforms. Something I want to point out real quick before we get into that, though, I did play a game a while ago as the nation Sokoto here. It's this African area. They start off the game as a primitive nation, which means they're pretty much just a tribe. They're not civilized. You actually have to go through and enact different policies. I can't show you that because Great Britain's already westernized, but you have to enact certain policies that give you the ability to westernize, and then once you westernize and become a civilized culture, then you can unlock this kind of research here and start building up your civilization. So I believe Sokoto, when I started, it was like they were ranked like 90th out of 121 starting countries, and in 100 years I had them up to the 30th most powerful country, which it was kind of cool, but I actually spent, I think, 70 years of the game trying to westernize, and that only left me about 30 years to actually play the game. So it's kind of a boring route to go, but it's there if you want to do it. So back to the politics here. As a westernized country, you can do social reforms and political reforms. So, for example, America, they start out with slavery allowed, and you can actually get to the point where you outlaw slavery about the Civil War time. And you can enact the civil reforms or social reforms and political reforms are separate. You have to have the approval of people in order to have the ability to do it. So, I could have 60% people in favor of social reforms, but only 40% in favor of political reforms, which means I'll only be able to enact a social reform and not a political one. So I could go in and make an 8. Well, actually, this has to be progressive, so I could make it a 14, then 12, 10, and then an 8-hour workday. Or enact minimum wages, and so on with the reforms here. Or the political reforms, I can make it so that everyone has equal votes, or the population of the upper house, which you can see by this here, is based on area population, or 2 per state. So this is kind of like the U.S. Senate, and this is kind of like the House of Representatives. So that's the reforms here. There are different movements, which, having started a new game, there's none active. But say the Tory party, who are reactionary. Say the reactionary people, they're kind of a little sliver here. 10% of the country is reactionary. Say that actually starts building up and they get to 20, 30%. That amount of the population is going to start a movement and even start a group of rebels who want a reactionary government. And they will have the major movement going, and that movement will spur rebels, and eventually there'll be a rebel group that will try to overthrow your government for, say, a reactionary government, and you'll actually have to kill off all the rebels, and you can suppress different movements. Some of the movements are for social reforms, so one of the popular ones is school systems. There'll be a movement for better school systems, so enacting a higher grade of the school system will suppress it on its own without you having to go in as a government and suppress it. There are different decisions here. They are kind of separated by the different countries. Some countries have access to things that others don't, like Treaty of London or Empress of India. If you play as America, they're not going to have that, whereas America is going to have the Trail of Tears, Manifest Destiny, stuff like that. So there's that kind of history to it as well. And enacting them will have different benefits or some penalties, but usually it's like a benefit, such as this one here. It gives relation with the U.S. an extra 100 points. Relations are based on a negative 200 to a positive 200 scale. So 100 points is a huge gain. And doing this would secede a caribou to the U.S. I think that, I can't remember if that's part of Maine or Canada. Let's go take a look. Yeah, that's part of Maine up here. So I can enact that and end up giving the northern part of Maine to the U.S. And just for the sake of making the map kind of more accurate, we're going to go ahead and do that. So congratulations, U.S., you now own all of Maine there. I wonder if there's one for Canada. Doesn't look like there's one for Canada, but it may pop up eventually. And this is how I was saying, if I were to click on this, it would change my research to just even on everything. And then this is the released nations that I was talking about. We're going to do this here in a little bit, but not right now. I can release Canada, which will give Canada their freedom, and it'll give me the option to play as Canada. However, before I do that, you'll notice that not all of Canada is claimed. I'm going to turn on the political boundaries here. You'll see that this white area here, that is uncolonized land, which means it's not even owned. And you have to be a great power in order to go in and send an expedition. So I'm going to go ahead and send an expedition on that. If I'm unchallenged, which there shouldn't be any challenge for that, then eventually I'll be able to take in that land. So what I want to do before actually gaining independence as Canada is I want to go ahead and settle all of Canada as Great Britain and then release Canada, just because when I release Canada, they're not going to be a great power and I won't be able to colonize this. So that's going to take a little time. Might not be this video, but I can always set up a video chain here and do a few episodes. So back to explaining the tabs up here. So we got through the released nations. Parties. You can, in some, in actually a lot of governments here, choose the ruling party. So I can switch to conservative or Tory, or I can hold an election, and based on the different ideologies, they'll elect a government. So if I went to hold election, having 71% of the population conservative, they'll actually elect the Conservative Party as the ruling party. Certain governments, like I'm playing as, who was I playing as? I think it might have been Belgium. No, I could change Belgium's as well. There was a country I was playing as that I absolutely could not change that. The only way to change that would be to hold an election. And each party, as you're going to see here, has their own ideals based on the 5 different policies. So, the Tory party is all about jingoism, which is straight, dominate everything type military, whereas the Whig party is anti-military and the Conservative party is pro-military. there's different citizenship policies, religious policies, economic policies, and trade policies. And I already covered the trade policy or the economic policy where interventionism allows me to go in and intervene on businesses. Laissez-faire, I have no control whatsoever over businesses. And then state capitalism, I have all the control over businesses. So, all right, so the next tab is population. There's not really too much to this. It's just giving you an overview of territorial populations here, and you can break it down. So like in Oxford, there are 5 different types of citizens here. So right now there's 6,000 clerks. They're Protestant religion, and they have these kind of ideals here. So essentially each citizen is represented in your population. Maybe not specifically each individual person you can look at, but of my 500 clergymen, it breaks them down into different ideals here based on issues. So you do have the aspect that every single citizen in your country is accounted for when it comes to different issues, or when it comes to trying to influence, say, I want to build up my army, so I influence soldiers or something. Then it has their tendency to drink, okay, so this is the life needs, everyday needs, and luxury needs. There is alcoholism in the game. That'll come up a lot. I know for sure in America with the prohibition, and some of the other countries have it as well. So this is the population window. There's not too much to go over there. Trade is kind of the same. This is showing you what you're sending out, or the price, I'm sorry, if the price went up or down, and then it'll show, maybe not here. So I know up here it shows you the top 3 goods that you're exporting and the top 3 goods that you're importing. I guess it doesn't show it here. I'm going to show something for the maximum stockpile budget here. Oh, it's not showing it here either. Okay, so the stockpile, this here, this is for your army, so like their ammunition, provisions, stuff like that. Same thing with Navy, and then this is for construction. So if you're building a factory and you need to import the steel, that'd be what that's for. Here in the trade, I can bump this up and say I need, who's raw materials? Say I need a ton of iron here, and I'm just not getting enough with my current stockpile. I can actually increase the spending on stockpile, and it'll allow us to bring more iron in. But like I said, there's not much to go over with trade as well. This is just kind of an overview of how things are going. Diplomacy. So we have all the countries in the game that we can go through and be diplomatic with. There's different levels of relations. So anything from opposed, neutral, cordial, and friendly. And then there's the option to add countries to your sphere of influence, which means that they're kind of like a puppet state. You benefit from their labor essentially. You don't own the country at all. They're an independent country, but you kind of have your fingers in what's going on there as far as your investors and reaping some of the rewards from them. Along with that, say Greece here, they're in my sphere of influence. Say, right. So say we got Greece down here. The Ottoman Empire decides to invade Greece. Them being in my sphere of influence, even though I don't have an official alliance with them, I have interests in there, which means I'm going to go to their aid, because if I just let the Ottomans take over the Greece, that's taking money out of my pocket. So it's not an official alliance, but it is saying that, hey, my interests are in that country and I'm going to protect my interests. It has 8 great powers. So the top 8 countries are considered great powers. Let's see if I can show that here. There we go. So the top 8 are great powers. The second 8 are secondary powers. And then after that is just civilized and uncivilized countries. You can move up and down. So say I go to war with Austria and Austria just whoops me. Okay, so they just take out my military. They invade and occupy my my territories. I'm losing prestige because I'm losing battles. I'm just getting absolutely dominated, and I need peace. You know, I need to stop losing. So I ask for peace. Being that I've lost the war, I'm going to lose a lot of prestige, which is going to knock my prestige down, which is ultimately my standing, and that could knock me down to say a secondary power. Or, you know, Belgium here, they can go and they can just go on a tear, and you know, their industry is on fire. They go to war. I think almost instantly. The Netherlands. My other game is Belgium, and almost instantly the Netherlands and Luxembourg declared war on me. So, you know, being at war with them, say I just freaking wiped the floor with them, I could raise Belgium up. Go back into diplomacy here, from the 10th to maybe say the 8th, and that would make Belgium a great power. And you have certain bonuses to being a great power, as you can intervene in wars. So, you know, Texas War of Independence. I don't have a direct influence, so I can't intervene in this one. But say France and Spain go to war, I can choose a side, and I can intervene in the war on whichever side I choose as a great power. Secondary powers and the rest, they don't have that option. And also, how I was colonizing over here, you know, like I said, if I'm a secondary power or just a civilized nation, I can't colonize this. So that's why I'm doing this while I'm a great power, so that I have that privilege. Back into diplomacy here, as you can see, I can colonize the British, I don't want to mispronounce that, but I'm going to try here, Travancore. Sorry if I got that wrong. I can turn that into a protectorate, and then once it receives a certain amount of bureaucrats, so that 1% of the population is bureaucrats, I can actually create a colonial province out of that territory, which not sure. Yeah, I think it was this one right here. So once this area gets 1% of the population as bureaucrats, I can turn that into an official colony. Alright, back to the diplomacy screen here. You can track all the wars going on in the world, and they'll get big. See how I'm allied with all these countries here. If I go to war, I'm expecting all of these, or wait, who am I on? Yeah, I'm expecting all of these countries to go to war on my side. And who, you know, if say I go to war with, oh no, that's not a good example. Okay, so say I go to war with Austria, they're going to expect those two countries to go to war on their side, and you know, someone might intervene on their side as well. And you'll notice that in the 1900s, around the time of the First Great War, you'll actually see a lot of Europe actually going to war, and it'll just have like, you know, 10 to 15 countries on one side versus 10 to 15 countries on the other side. It gets pretty awesome. You can ask for military access or give military access. You can call on an ally to join in wars. You can discredit. You know, you have all these different political things you can do here. I can build up relations, so you know, I can click on this a few times, and now I'm heavily investing in my diplomatic relations with Sweden, which will allow me to increase their opinion of us, and I could add them to my sphere of influence when that gets high enough. War justification. So say I want to go to war with Sweden, maybe not Sweden, let's say I want to go to war with the US. I can't just declare war on someone, I have to go in and justify it. So I can say that my reason for going to war is I want to acquire a state, or I want to cut them down to size, or I just want to free the people. So you'll choose one of these options and hit proceed, and then over time your country will fabricate a reason to justify going to war. And then when they have that reason, or you'll be able to see the progress of it, you'll actually be able to go in and declare war. And then there will be different crises, like, say, for example, Austria invades, who the heck is this? The Saxe-Weimar, and they're just going in and just cleaning house. I can, as a great power that is in the area of that crisis, I can go in and intervene and try to, you know, choose a side. Be like, hey, I support their decision to go in and just kill everyone, or I don't support them going in and killing everyone. And those can lead to wars as well. So that'll wrap it up for the diplomacy screen here. Now going to the military. You have two different branches. You have the Army and the Navy. Being Britain, I obviously have a huge Navy. There are different admirals and generals that you can place in control here. It looks like they don't have any generals, but they do have an admiral. Admirals have different effects, like this guy has a charismatic personality, which gives 20% morale bonus and 2% reliability. And his background is an adventurer, which negative 2% reliability and 1% attack, which gives him a bonus of 1 attack, 28% morale bonus, and 7% organization. As you invest in officers, you can actually go in and create generals or admirals and assign them to your armies and navies, and it will give them boosts, which actually do come in handy, especially if you're a smaller country and you might not have the technological advantage, or maybe not have the numbers. But if you have a good general in that group and you're facing, you know, say like you're Belgium fighting Great Britain, and I send in my 9 against like their 12 here or something like that, but sorry, that's a bad example. Say I send in my 18 against their 12. My 18 doesn't have a general, but their 12 does. That general is going to give them the boost, and that 12 can actually take out the 18. Likewise with the funding, if you don't have your stockpile up and they're not being fully supplied, then your army can lose because they run out of supplies. So that's something you have to keep in mind when adjusting the budget. And somehow I got to positive 443 a day. That must just be a glitch because I just started or something here. And you can go in and select each army individually. You can break them up into different units, or if you combine, say, the 18 and the 9, I can combine the armies into one and have greater numbers. So that's all the tabs up here. You'll notice that there are some things here that can light up, like how the you know, there's a colony notice here. There's crises. I can add people to sphere of influence, and then you know, if I'm losing status as a great power, that'll light up. Over here, I'm having a work crisis. As you can see, I have a lot of people that are unemployed. There's no bankrupt factories right now, or closed factories. So like, say this factory closed, it would show up that a factory went out of business. And if I was, say, interventionism or state capital, I could go in, I could reopen it, and I could subsidize the factory. You know, and then this one here will light up when, you know, there's something like a factory being built or something. Alright, so that's the quick rundown of the tabs. Now let's go in here and show a little bit of what you can do as far as micromanaging the colonies. So, I was hoping, I have a friend who lives in Bournemouth, sorry if I mispronounced that. I don't remember which territory it is, but I know it's a southern, not beach town, but it's on the ocean here. I was kind of hoping that it would have its own territory, but it looks like it doesn't. Alright, so anyway, here let's just use London. So London is in the Southeast England territory, which, as you can see by this gray line here, it's Oxford, Southampton, Brighton, Canterbury, and London. So I can choose a national focus and say I want more soldiers. I can click on this, and it's going to try to turn more of my population in all of these territories into soldiers. Or, I can say I want more capitalists, so I can influence, which actually I'm going to set that to capitalist. I can influence more capitalists being in my population, which in turn is more investors to open up factories to help solve my unemployment issue. And that, like I said, that'll take effect for all of these colonies, not just London. So if I click on any, you'll see that the focus doesn't change. We got this territory here, which because of, let me show you here in the culture, because I only have this one technology for political thought, I can sit here and I can research the rest of these depending on when they unlock. Like this one doesn't unlock till 1900, but for each one of these I research, it gives me an extra national focus. But for now, I only can set 2. So say I want to go here to Ipswich, and say I want them to encourage capitalists as well. So now this territory and this territory have national focuses set for capitalists, but unless I remove one of those national focuses, I can't go to these territories here, and I can't set anything there. So, sorry, I believe that's Ireland, right? Yeah, Ireland and Scotland. Hope I had that right. Okay, so another thing that I want to point out before I haven't even moved a day in this, and we're probably a good 10 minutes into the video or so. As you notice here, there is no Germany. The reason is, back in 1836, this area was all kind of fractured with different, nationalities. What you can do over time is take one of these countries, like say a Mecklenburg or Prussia here, or any of these smaller ones here, and if you actually build up your sphere of influence, or even just take over the territories here, you can actually piece together Germany. Certain parts of these will become like North Germany, or like South Germany, stuff like that, and then you piece those together, and you can actually fully create Germany, and it'll actually turn the whole region into Germany with those different regions under Germany's control. Austria will turn into Austria-Hungary. Just as time goes on, when I did my Sokoto thing, I pretty much did that so I could just watch what happens around the world, and it wasn't 100% perfect, but a lot of the events and a lot of the countries that came to be, it all came true in the game here. So if you don't interfere, for the most part, it will happen. All the way down to post-World War I France, going through different revolutions and changing governments over and over and over again. They were the #1 power for a while, which that kind of surprising, considering during World War I, Germany kind of messed them up pretty bad. But they were the #1 power, and then the revolts hit, and the changes in government, it just killed their country. They plummeted pretty fast. So, I think I pretty much have everything explained. We can get started here. Like I said, the main goal is I'm going to colonize all of British Canada here, so that I can give Canada its independence and play as Canada, not just playing as United Kingdom. There are different speeds in the game. There's paused, and then as I unpause it, you have little the first speed, 2, 3, 4, and up to 5, and it'll actually make the time go by really quick. So as you can notice, in just a couple seconds, it put it up to the 11th. Dang, I guess I really am making 550 some. Let's go ahead and give the Navy back their funding so we can maintain a powerful Navy. one thing I really pride myself on in these different strategy games is my ability to manage the budget. A lot of times people won't manage their budget and they'll just go broke and they'll be handcuffed. I'm really good at keeping my country in the plus. Which one thing I like about this game that Civ 5 kind of fails at, if you're a player and you go bankrupt, you'll start having problems. But if the computer, when they go bankrupt, they don't experience the same issues that the player does. So it's just broken mechanics, and as much as I love Civ 5, I've actually got to the point where I just can't play it anymore because all the broken mechanics in that game. So, you know, if you like Civ 5, great, I love it too, but you know, the game's got some flaws that this game makes up for. Alright, so Belgium wants an alliance, and I'm going to go ahead and grant them that alliance. We'll go ahead and start time back up here. As you can tell, as time progresses, this bar is going to fill, and as long as it's uncontested, when that bar fills, then I will own Kelowna, if I pronounce that right. So we're going to go ahead and just try to colonize all. Actually, you know what? I can do it all at once, I believe. Also, I don't have to just. No, I need more colony points. It looks like. All right. So as I gain more colony points, I'll go ahead and start colonizing more of that. That way we can get to the Canadian part quicker. I got a buddy that lives in the Toronto area that might appreciate me playing Canada. Alright, so let's check out some of the issues going on here. Greece wants an alliance. Sure, why not? I like war. Eventually having, and this is kind of what started World War I, all the alliances. Austria-Hungary went to war with Serbia, and you know, Serbia and their alliances and Austria-Hungary and their alliances pulled all of Europe in, and all hell broke loose. So let's go ahead and start up a lot of alliances so that we can get some action going. Alright, so like I said, some issues will pop up as you play the game. Alright, so all the tea in the United Kingdom. The tea harvest is unusually large this year, and nowhere is it larger than in Delhi. That's in India. Everywhere one ventures in the area, sacks and sacks again stand lined up, brimming with freshly picked leaves of wonderfully smelling tea. The harvest will probably set us straight for years if we're capable of leveraging it right. Should we let the farmers keep an extra portion of the harvest, let our merchants sell it for profit, or should we stockpile it for later use? So, each one of these is going to have some kind of reproduction. So if I stockpile it, it'll add an extra 20 tea to my stockpile. If I let the farmers keep some, it'll give the poor strata a little more support for the government. So they'll lose consciousness, which consciousness is like your people who are going to revolt because, you know, say like I'm overtaxing someone, or they absolutely hate my government, and they keep building consciousness about how much they hate the government. They'll start revolting, and then the militancy plays along with that as well. It'll start allowing them to build up brigades and actually rebel. And then if I let the merchants sell the tea, I'll get 300 pounds, or don't remember if it's pounds or crowns at this time, but we'll just go with pounds. I'm all about the money. We colonized India so that, or the United Kingdom colonized India so that they can make money, so give me your tea. Alright, so let's see if, okay, the Netherlands and Luxembourg have not declared war on Belgium. I don't know if that was just something random that happened when I played, or if they're just afraid since I'm allied with them now. We do need research here. I want to build up my industry. Actually, no, I want to build up my army. I'm going to go with army professionalism, which will give a bonus to military tactics, which will make my officers slightly more Why would Mexico want military access? I guess that's probably to get through Canada, but they don't need access into Canada. Texas wants it as well. Sorry, guys. There's an entire country and or not continent, but massive land separating you guys. You don't need access in my country. Sorry. So this is Russian controlled. As America, I don't know how you get Alaska and Hawaii. I know Hawaii you can add to your sphere of influence. Maybe that comes into play later, that you can annex them. But being Russian owned, I know Russia didn't really see the value in Alaska, so they sold it to the US. You don't have the option to buy territory in this game, so I don't know how you get Alaska if you're playing as the US. You're going to see pop-ups down here, so Burma entered an alliance with Dynam, I don't know. Chile entered a military alliance with Brazil, and you know, all those just keep popping up. They get kind of annoying, but at least you know what's going on around the world. There will be newspapers that pop up as important events happen, and it looks like a factory is being built. So a furniture factory is being built in southeast England, which means my capitalists are doing their job. One important part of your navy is these guys can't just cross the sea. I have to place them on a transport in order to get them over, you know, into Europe or, you know, wherever I want to get them. So as Great Britain, it is very important to go ahead and keep your navy intact, because otherwise you're not going to be able to do much around the world. All right, let's check how our colonization is doing here. Okay, so this whole territory is that one. It looks like this whole territory is that. Do I have enough to start this one? No. Oh, actually, it looks like I have to research different technologies in order to be able to colonize that. How's this one doing though? Alright, the revolutionary flames of the United Kingdom are fanned as St. John's erupts into open rebellion, crying out for liberty, justice, and equality. The citizens take to the streets. So St. John's is going to take, or gain 4 militancy. Can't remember. Is that Canada or? I don't know. Alright, we'll go ahead and speed up time here. Screw it, I'm not at war with anyone, so I don't need to... Okay, so there's already some uprisings going on. Let's check. Movements here. Maybe not actually. Alright, so I do have some liberal agitation going on, so it's coming. I rule with an iron fist, so you guys just gonna have to deal with not liking your government. Okay, so like I was saying, certain countries can go bankrupt and not pay us or pay you back if they take a loan out, and that was the case with this country, which will actually give me the right to go to war with them and force them to repay the debts. Do I want to ally with Prussia? Prussia's kind of a bigger territory in the area. I'm going to decline. Maybe I'll actually end up going to war with them soon. And as you can see, these things do get a little annoying, especially if you're in a bigger country like Great Britain, who has colonies everywhere. You're just going to get constant pop-ups. You know, as Sokoto, I barely got them because it was a primitive nation. So just something we got to deal with for now. What we got here? So it looks like Burma is going to try to go to war with Siam to acquire the state. So that'll be something interesting to watch. And then we'll see what happens with that. And it looks like a couple more wars started up. So we got the Ottomans trying to take over Tripoli. Texan War of Independence. It looks like the U.S. joined in on the side of Texas. But it actually looks like Mexico... no, okay, so Texas and the U.S. are winning that. War of the Pacific, so we got Chile going up against Bolivia and Peru. Looks like that just started, kinda. Not really big militaries. And we got the Argentinian liberation of Bolivian Jujuy. So it looks like Bolivia is involved in 2 different wars here. I'm actually kind of surprised that it didn't merge these 2. But, I don't know. We'll keep an eye on that. Alright. Back to the time progressing. Okay, and as you can see, we're up to 3 now. Which I can... Okay. One thing I do want to point out. As time goes on, there will be upper house elections, and these will actually change based on policies throughout your country. So, now that I have this paused and can actually do some stuff without pop-ups here, I was uncontested, and we got this up to a point that I can go ahead and bring it into my civilization here. So, welcome to Great Britain for now. And then as these guys grow, I'll be able to turn them into a colonial province. What's going on with this here? Looks like Russia has part of my land. Maybe when I'm officially Canada, maybe I'll go to war and try to take that. Or actually, I think that's... No, that's part of Alaska, my bad. So that would historically end up going to the US. Alright. I cannot get that until I have breech-loader rifles, state and government, and medicine. That's a long time. I really don't want to give independence until I at least have these 2. Alright. What do we need here? Breech-loader rifles, state and government, and medicine. Let's start with state and government. That's not available until 1840. I'm going to go ahead and increase my education spending, and since I have the... Actually, I guess I don't really have the money. There we go. Okay, I don't... There. That'll help boost my research time. You guys don't need military access, sorry. Okay, it looks like a paper did come out. Oh my god. Alright, so this is a newspaper, just gives you quick highlights of what's going on. And so it looks like there's some, looks like the Texas Independence War is concluded. It looks like a lot of wars started up and went a long way. So it looks like the U.S. now owns a good part of Texas, and they'll have to get the rest from Mexico. We also can turn Gibraltar, which is this here maybe? Yep. Turn that into a colonial province. Which, this is going to make it an official, like, legitimate territory. So no longer is just kind of like a little puppet, or it's not, like, you know, it's under our control, but it's not necessarily anything that's like main territory. But when I do this, it actually will make it a main territory. It can't get any more official than what it is now. Let's check out. Crap, I forgot what I was going to check out. Alright, so it looks like we have the fertilizer factory. Oh. Wish I remember what I was going to check out. Something I was going to show, but I can't remember. It'll come to me later. And it looks like there is a war going on here. We got Prussia, and that was allied with Belgium. Okay, so I don't know why I didn't get pulled into that war. I had an alliance with Belgium, but sure. Alright, now that gives me something to do here. I'm actually going to go ahead and call it a video here, and for episode 2 we'll go ahead and get into war. So thank you for watching gameplay by Ardubich. This was Victoria 2, developed and published by Paradox Interactive. Please like, comment, subscribe, and if you like this video, there's going to be an episode 2 where we go to war against the Netherlands, Luxembourg, and Prussia. So, thank you for watching, and see you next time.